Hey everybody, in this video what we're going to do is we're going to create we're going to continue on creating the variables. So in the last video we created the provider in Terraform, and you can see, let's just go over that real quick. Terraform providers, it's using HashiCorp. We could set the version, we're not going to at this point, and provider AWS. We also ran Terraform init, which created this folder up here, the .terraform, which has the provider version, downloaded all that. There it is, it's AWS version 4.6.2. So we could set that to 4.6.2. Once we get this working, it's probably a good idea because you want to keep the version the same that you know is working, no bugs. We have a provider AWS, that's the default provider. You can see there's no alias here, and provider AWS.prod, which is going to be our prod account. So we have two different accounts. We're going to use SSO to log in, and let's go over to variables. Let's start with the variables here. So I'm going to start typing some variables. So we've got variable equals, or variable, and we name the variable. That's right, tag. So I'm going to call this tag name, and open that up, and the default value there equals, and we'll call this one Chris and Org prod. So we'll call that Chris Org prod. And that will be that'll be our tag name. So now just go into some more variables. VPC CIDR. So we're going to define the CIDR here. So this will be the CIDR that we're going to use, and the default that we're going to set here is, so let's use 10.200.0.0/16, and that's going to be our default CIDR for this new VPC that we create. Variable count to share to, and we're doing this because what we're going to do is we're going to share out this, we're going to put this in the infrastructure account. We're going to build this VPC in the infrastructure account, and then we're going to use Resource Access Manager to share it to another account. So all of our infrastructure is going to be managed in this infrastructure account. So we're going to set up the network and all of that in there. So right now, do I have that account? Actually, I should have the account. So what I'm going to do is, let's go to myapps.microsoft.com. Let's go to AWS SSO, and what we'll do is we'll get the account number. So here we see CR prod. So let's share this into the prod account, because this will be our prod VPC. So there you can see that is the account number. So let's copy that, and let's go back to VS Code, and we'll put that right in there. Paste that in. Okay. So that's the account we're going to share to. That's going to be used by Resource Access Manager. Okay. Variable. This one will be the transit gateway ID. and that is not defined right now. So what we'll do is we'll just put it in default. And we'll just leave that as a blank at this point. So basically, if you have a transit gateway ID, if you're connected to a VPN on premises, which you probably are. So if you have an on-prem premises design where your company has a small data center, maybe on premises, or it's legacy, or you're running some stuff outside of AWS, you're going to have a transit gateway, and you're probably going to want to do a transit gateway anyway, just to connect your VPCs and allow you to route where you want to and create a nice network design in AWS. So transit gateways are really, really good for that. So we'll create a transit gateway, but this would just be using that transit gateway ID to connect and add a share to it. So it's an existing one. So right now we don't have that, but we will. We'll configure that, and I'll just show you how to do that. Even if you don't right now have anything connected, VPN, site-to-site VPN, or direct connect can connect to a transit gateway, and that is what you're going to ultimately want to do. Okay. Now let's get into, let's see. So we can also, let's do a variable here, and we'll call this base name. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give it a description. So this is a little different. So description. Oops. And then this will be the prefix used for all resource names. Resource names. Okay. And the default for that is going to be, I'll just do Chris org prod. I could use that tag name up there, but if you wanted this to be different, you could set it differently. So that's going to be our base name, and you'll see where we use that once we get into the design or into the main form. Okay, next. This is now where we're going to get into all of our subnets and defining those, and this is the bulk of the variables and why we're using them, because this allows it to be reused. So we'll call this variable, and I will click down. No, I won't. I will. There we go. Variable, let's give it a name, and this will be public prefix. So here we have a public prefix, and what we're going to do is we're going to call this type map, and the default equals, and we're going to make this like this, and we'll call this public app sub az1, and I will define it here as az is going to equal US East 1 dash AZ1. So that's the zone, and that's, you can see that is the actual zone named zone 1, not the US dash East, or sorry, the the other zones that are, let me show you what the zones are. Let's go into prod here. Just to give some background on this. Next. And done. Okay. Done. And then VPC. That's what we want to go to, VPC. We should have one VPC here, but we want to look at the subnets. So you can see these subnets: availability zone, US East 2B, 2C, and 2A. You can see that the zone ID does happen to match. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. That doesn't have to happen. That does not need to be the same. These are the ones, the availability zone IDs will always be the same zones. These can change depending. They mix it up depending on what account you're in. So I like to use these, the availability zone ID, just to keep it consistent and make sure we're using the right ones. All right. So that's the AZ, US East 1. Actually, we are in Ohio. Why are we in Ohio? Let's go to Virginia. It's interesting. Okay, here we go. Northern Virginia. You can see right here, C is AZ1. There, that shows the difference. So we're going to put this in US East 1, AZ1, and it actually will be in the networking account. We don't have that set up for SSO in here. So that right now we're not going to be able to see that, but we'll add that one to SSO. Okay. So that's just the background on that. So AZ equals US East CIDR for that is going to be 10 dot, let's see, what did we use up here? 10.200. So 10.200 dot 10.0/24. That'll be our first CIDR. IDX, I put an index in here. That's just for me to use later on, and I'll show you where we use that. So public prefix, okay. So that's public app subnet 1. And we're going to add another one. So public app sub AZ2. This is going to be very similar to the first one. AZ equals US1-AZ2. Give it a CIDR. And that's going to be 10.200.10.0/24. Nope. It's going to be 11. So make that 11. And the index is going to equal 1. Okay. So that's our public prefix. Now you could have more. If you wanted to have more, you could just keep going and create more. But for right now, that's all we want for our public prefix. Okay, so now let's go to our public app prefix. Actually, let's stop here, and I'll continue in the next video. So if you could subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for watching.